Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I'm Stylosa, and this is my awesome Command & Conquer top 5 games of all time. Good lord! Now, the reason I've decided to do this is because Command & Conquer, as a series, is 20 years old. That's ridiculous. Command & Conquer Tiberian Dawn launched 1995, August the 31st. That is insane. 20 years ago, I'm feeling really old right about now. Oh my god. In at number 5, we have Tiberian Dawn. This is the game which started it all off. It's the first entry into the Tiberium series. GDI and Nod are both introduced. The game features live action cutscenes which went on to become a stable feature of the series. You have GDI and their powerful yet slow units, and Nod with their fast moving, hard hitting units. It introduced Tiberium, this alien substance which lands on Earth following an asteroid impact. Tiberium begins to leach nutrients from the soil and starts to xenoform the surrounding biosphere. It's pretty nasty stuff. Or is it? The Brotherhood of Nod established a tight grip on worldwide trade and harvesting of Tiberium, using its strange properties to arm and exploit the Third World against the First World. Nod is essentially a terrorist organisation, while GDI on the other hand fight to defend Europe against Nod. Plus, who could forget that awesome Frank Klepacki soundtrack? Oh my god. We're going to have to act if we want to live in a different world.
We are going to have to act if we want to live in a different world.
In at number 4, Tiberian Sun. Tiberian Dawn Mark II. New and improved. Better isometric graphics engine. More units. More missions. More buildings. Better CGI cutscenes. More everything. Yet the basic gameplay mechanics remained extremely close to Tiberian Dawn. Units and buildings have evolved though. Technology has advanced to sci-fi levels. Gone are treaded tanks, instead replaced with giant walkers and hover vehicles. Not introduced cybernetically enhanced units along with the powerful AI Cabal. Computer assisted biologically augmented life form. Tiberian Sun asks and answers the question, what if Tiberium changed the world? How will Nod and GDI react? GDI see Tiberium as an extremely dangerous substance, one that threatens the stability of the world. Yet they also understand the power of Tiberium and know it must be studied for the betterment of mankind. Nod has a massive support base in the Third World, and less privileged people throughout the world also support Nod. It's at this point Nod becomes almost the figurehead organisation for the worship of Tiberium, with Cain at its head as the prophet. Tibson introduced the mutants, or the Forgotten. These poor souls mutated and deformed by Tiberium, it's all nasty. You see, Nod exploits them, but GDI ignores them. Number 3, Red Alert. In the gap between Tiberian Dawn and Tiberian Sun's launch, we have Red Alert. Red Alert is a complete deviation from the Tiberian storyline, and instead introduces a what-if factor. What if Hitler and Nazi Germany never existed? What if Einstein went back in time and stopped Hitler rising to power? What if the Soviets went to war with the Western powers? What if Nikola Tesla actually created a Tesla coil capable of firing electricity? What if Einstein created a device capable of transporting units instantaneously across the battlefield? The game is set in or around the late 30s to 1940s with the corresponding technologies, excluding a handful of exotic units and superweapons. It's an alternative World War II. Red Alert is very much a serious game. It's light on humour. It focuses on the harsh realities of war. Stalin must be stopped, and it's down to the Allies to make sure he is at any cost. Gameplay mechanics are almost identical to Tiberian Dawn. Naval units are introduced, the UI has been slightly updated, and the fancy green Tiberium has been replaced by gold ore. Red Alert also introduced the concept of premium resources in the form of gems. Harvests full of gems were worth considerably more than ones full of ore. Oh yeah, and who couldn't forget that sneaky appearance by Cain in the opening Soviet cutscene. Number 2, we have Command & Conquer Tiberium Wars. This is Command & Conquer 3. This is the pinnacle of the Tiberium series. It's at this point EA decided to pump large amounts of cash into CNC following the massive financial success that Generals was. GDI and Nod enter their final forms. GDI steps up as the global world government, protecting its citizens in non-Tiberium polluted areas of the globe. Nod becomes a full-blown religious cult. The graphics engine becomes fully 3D, with fantastic visuals that still hold up today. The cutscenes feature fantastic CGI and acting from various Hollywood stars. Tiberium is becoming a major problem. At the start of the game, over 30% of the world's surface is uninhabitable by human life. Over 50% of the Earth is considered contaminated and harmful to human life, leaving around 20% of the Earth actually capable of sustaining normal levels of human life. Units and building wise, the two sides become closer than ever. GDI maintains a slight vehicle advantage, while Nod employs more varied and specialised infantry. Enter the Skrin, CNC's third race. The Skrin are aliens which have come to harvest the Tiberium. You see, the Skrin seed planets across the cosmos, and once certain conditions are met, I won't spoil anything here, they turn up to claim the Tiberium prize. They are super, super powerful, and it forces GDI and Nod to work together in a limited capacity to try and hold back the Skrin threat. But this being CNC, not all is what it seems. Did Kane call for the Skrin? Are the Skrin mankind's saviours? Who really knows? Tiberian Wars is a very polished, high production value AAA RTS. It's a fantastic game, and it's one I implore you to play. And don't forget the expansion Kane's Wrath either, which takes a look at what would happen if GDI actually won in CNC3. Where does that leave Nod? And that explores Nod's sort of development from that standpoint. It's very good. Number 1, Red Alert 2. Oh, baby. Finally, we have reached number 1. Red Alert 2 is a very, very special game. Following on from Tiberian Sun, Westwood decided to move back into the Red Alert universe. However, this time they decided to completely reinvent the direction of Red Alert. I guess they decided to leave the seriousness to the Tiberium series, although you can kind of argue that that is a little bit cheesy, but it does still deal with more serious, more like real world scenarios. Things like terrorism and insurgency and global conflict and stuff like that. Red Alert 2 on the other hand is, well, it's downright fun. It's cheesy. In fact, it's ultra, ultra cheesy. So the Allies win World War II and dispatch good old Stalin. The Allies then install a new puppet leader into the Soviet Union called Nikolai Romanov. Apparently he's a descendant of the Tsar, Nicholas II. But you see, good old Romanov decides it would be rather good to launch a surprise invasion of the USA. And he was slightly coerced by Mr. Yuri. All manner of silly and crazy units were introduced. Let's strap a sonic emitter to dolphins and use them as submarine killers. How about mind-controlled madness? What about a giant Kirov airship? How about a machine which controls the weather to launch devastating lightning storms against your enemies? Soldiers with rocket packs. Chrono Legionnaires. The unit variety is just awesome. And you know what? Let's not forget that timeless aesthetic. The way the game looks is it's cartoonish. It's slightly 3D-ish. I guess it's isometric, cartoonish kind of design. It's great. Like, for me, it's the best looking Command & Conquer game. It look like, I know CNC3 technically is great and still holds up well to this day, but Red Alert 2, there's just something special about the way the game looks. I mean, call it nostalgia, call it whatever you like. It just looks really special. And also, don't forget the expansion as well, Yuri's Revenge, which is a great expansion. Good God. So all the other games in this list, they're awesome, but none quite match the silly, stupidly pure fun you can have when you play Red Alert 2. That's why, for me, it is the best Command & Conquer game ever made. But wait, I've not finished yet. I've got a couple of special mentions. First one goes to Command & Conquer Generals. Now, if you're a fan of Unit Lost, which, by the way, our name came from Command & Conquer because we love the series so much. Unit Lost, Unit Lost, Unit Lost. I challenge you to play Command & Conquer without thinking of the YouTube channel now, when you just constantly will hear it in your head. Unit Lost, Unit Lost, Unit Lost.
Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost.
But anyway, you will know that I am a fan of Command & Conquer Generals, and often when I'm asked what is the best Command & Conquer, a lot of the time I will say Command & Conquer Generals. But why do I say that? And why was it not number 1 in the list that I've just gone down in my top 5? Well, it deviated completely from all previously established Command & Conquer factions. It instead focused on the USA and China and the GLA, and the GLA were a type of terrorist kind of Middle East organisation. Generals suffered, though, in a big way with its single-player campaign, which I can't even remember what that was at all. Like, I just cannot remember the campaign. And to me, Command & Conquer games are about the cheesy single-player experience on the whole. But this is where Command & Conquer Generals was totally different, their experience, and I think that's why it resonates so much with me. This is a game I played the most out of any of the Command & Conquers. I used to play it with all my friends at school. We used to have massive, like, 4v4 free-for-alls and all kinds of madness. I remember running home from school just to get on the PC and play it. It was ridiculous, and that's why, for me, it is the best multiplayer Command & Conquer, but I don't think it is the best Command & Conquer. As I say, I think for me, Red Alert 2 is the best Command & Conquer game on the whole. It did have an expansion as well, which was 0 Hour. This introduced a selection of generals, and they all had special abilities, which I think these generals were cut out of the original game. They should have been in generals, but for some reason, well, I guess EA just decided to launch this as an expansion pack and charge full price for it. But you had things like the USA Laser General or the GLA Demolitions General, which, you know, each one had special units. or the USA Super Weapon General, which, by the way, good luck trying to play that online in multiplayer. That would be banned because, not because of what you would think, like, oh my god, she can just fire super weapons all day, which she had a slightly better particle cannon, which she could move around the map, and, well, I think she could move it for long when it did more damage. But her main strength was the Aurora bombers she had, because they dropped fuel air bombs, like a miniature version of the fuel air bomb, which was a super weapon from Command & Conquer Generals, which did a lot of damage. Now, the Auroras would fly into the base, and they would always drop the payload because they were supersonic. None of the base defenses could hit them. But as soon as they dropped it, they'd slow down really slow and probably get killed. But it didn't matter because you could take out all the critical infrastructure of the base without them having a response to it. So it was kind of OP. Well, in fact, it was ridiculously OP. On Command & Conquer 4, that never existed, so we don't talk about that. And one last thing, this is another special mention. If you're interested in playing Red Alert, Tiberian Dawn, or even June 2000 in multiplayer, although you can play them in single player, but this thing is designed for multiplayer, then check out OpenR8. It's a fan remake of the older games, and it's got loads of balance patches in and stuff, and it's got a very active multiplayer community as well, and it's free. Like, you don't have to pay for this, it's totally free. There is a link in the description below. You don't even need to own Red Alert, Tiberian Dawn, or June. You may do for the single-player campaign, but definitely not for multiplayer, you don't. So what do you think, guys? Do you agree with me? What are the best CNC games in your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Stylosa, this is Unit Lost. You can follow me on Twitter @UnitLostGaming, and I'll catch you next time, people. Toodaloo.